I swear I didn't mean to stare. But some people carry gravity with them, the kind that makes the air lean in, the kind that tugs your chest before your head even catches up. That was her. She stood by the window of the cafe, half shadowed by late afternoon light, stirring a coffee she'd already let go cold. Mid-40s, maybe? Hair pinned up in a way that looked both practiced and undone. There was nothing loud about her. She didn't demand attention. She just pulled it, the way a flame convinces you to watch it flicker. And me? I was 23, pretending to read a book I'd stopped seeing 5 pages ago. She caught me once. My eyes. A second too long. She didn't smile, didn't frown either, just tilted her head, as if wondering why a stranger couldn't look away. My throat dried. I dropped my gaze, only to find it climbing back on its own. When she moved carefully, as if the room listened. She set her cup down, fingers brushing the edge of the saucer. I noticed the ring she wasn't wearing. I noticed the faint scar on her wrist, a pale line, like something healed years ago but still remembered. I wanted to ask her everything I shouldn't. I don't know why I stood when she walked past my table. Maybe I thought I was just stretching, or that the moment would vanish if I didn't do something reckless. Our sleeves touched, mine rough cotton, hers silk soft. Static sparked up my arm like a secret. Sorry, I murmured. She paused. Turned. Looked at me properly this time. Eyes sharp, but tired in the corners, like she'd been awake longer than she should have. You're not, she said, not unkindly. And God, the way she said it, low, steady, with a thread of amusement that dared me not to blush. I didn't answer. Couldn't. My mouth forgot how. Instead, she stepped closer, just enough that I caught the warmth of her perfume. Not sweet, not girlish, but something darker. Cedar, maybe? Smoke. Something that didn't apologize for lasting. You shouldn't look at people that way, she said, softer now, almost to herself. What way? My voice cracked, too thin, too honest. Her eyes lingered on me a moment too long, as if measuring whether I could handle the truth. She didn't give it. Instead, she let the silence stretch, a taut string between us. My hand rested on the back of the chair. Hers grazed the edge of the table. Inches apart, nothing touching, and still my pulse betrayed me. The cafe had gone too quiet. Or maybe it was just that I couldn't hear anything except her breathing, faint and steady, close enough to count. I never knew trouble could look this good, she murmured finally. Not to me, not exactly. More like to the space between us, like she regretted saying it aloud the second it left her lips. Heat rose in my chest. My fingers tightened around the chair, knuckles whitening. There were 100 things I wanted to say, and all of them wrong. But before I could find one, the bell over the cafe door chimed. A gust of cool evening air rushed in. Someone else stepped inside. Her eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to me, unreadable, as if she were deciding whether to stay or vanish. And I swear, the whole room held its breath. The door shut behind the new customer, breaking whatever spell had curled around us. She stepped back, as if space itself was a shield she suddenly remembered she needed. I sat again, pretending to return to my book, though the words blurred into nonsense. My heartbeat still drummed against my ribs. She lingered near the counter, waiting for the barista to refill her cup with fresh coffee this time. And I realized I wanted her to stay. Not in the way you want company to pass the hours. No, I wanted her presence, the deliberate rhythm of her movements, the quiet authority of someone who had lived more than me, seen more than me, carried more than me. When she finally came back, she didn't return to her window seat. She stopped by my table. Do you always stare at strangers until they give in? She asked, calm but sharp. I swallowed, fingers tightening around the book. Only when they're impossible to ignore. Her lips twitched, the ghost of a smile. She pulled out the chair across from me without asking, sat down like it was her table all along. I shouldn't, she said. Shouldn't what? Be here. Talking to you. She stirred her coffee, though she hadn't added anything to it. I'm too old to be entertaining this kind of attention. Her tone was matter-of-fact, not self-pitying. A line drawn in sand. I leaned forward. You don't look old. She lifted her gaze slowly, pinning me there. That's not the point. Silence stretched. I didn't push. She didn't explain. Instead, she asked, How old are you? 23. The pause that followed felt like judgment, though her expression stayed unreadable. She tapped her spoon against the rim of her cup, a soft metallic rhythm. I have a daughter your age, she said finally. That hit heavier than I expected. Not jealousy, just the weight of what this might look like to the outside world. A woman mid-40s, polished, experienced. A man barely past college, still learning where his edges were. I don't care, I said too fast. She arched a brow. You should. The truth sat between us. This was wrong in all the ways people like to whisper about. Too much distancing years. Too much risk of judgment. And yet she didn't leave. We talked instead. About nothing at first. Books on the table neither of us had been reading, the weather that couldn't decide between late summer and early fall. But then it deepened piece by piece. She told me she had been married once, long ago. 15 years. Ended quietly. Not with a fight. Just silence. The kind that empties a house until you can't breathe inside it. I told her about the one serious relationship I'd had, a girl from college, gone now, too restless to stay in one place. Her eyes softened, though her mouth stayed firm. So you're still new at this? Not new, I said, meeting her gaze. Just not jaded. That earned me the smallest real smile. Her hand brushed the table as she adjusted her cup, and for a second it grazed mine. She didn't move quickly enough to call it an accident. My skin lit up where we touched. She left her fingers there a moment too long before pulling away. Something in her posture shifted then, shoulders tight, eyes darting to the window as if someone might see us. This can't. She started then stopped. I leaned in, close enough to catch the warmth of her breath when she exhaled. Then why are you still here? Her lips parted, but no answer came. The tension stretched again, unbearable and perfect. Finally, she reached across the table, fingers brushing my sleeve. Barely there, but deliberate. A connection both fragile and certain. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Because I don't know how to leave. And she didn't move her hand away. Her hand still lingered on my sleeve when the cafe door chimed again. We both snapped our heads toward the sound. A group of students my age spilled inside, laughing too loud, shaking off the September chill. One of them glanced our way. Recognition flickered, someone from my classes. Her hand withdrew like flame meeting water. She leaned back, spine straight, face smoothing into a mask of casual distance. I mirrored her, trying not to let my panic show. The group ordered at the counter, too caught up in themselves to notice us. Still, the moment had broken, or almost. You see? She murmured, low enough only I could hear. This isn't simple. No, I admitted. But I don't want simple. She looked at me like I was a boy pretending to be a man, and for a second, I hated how young I must have seemed. But then her gaze softened, and something in her jaw relaxed. The students left with their drinks, their noise trailing out the door. Silence rushed back in, thick with everything unspoken. Her fingers tapped the rim of her cup. We should stop here. Do you want to? She hesitated. Long enough that I caught it. Long enough that I leaned closer, the table suddenly too small between us. Her breath brushed against my cheek as she whispered. No. That single word charged the air. I froze, waiting for her to move, waiting for her to tell me what line I was about to cross. She didn't move back. Our eyes locked. The space between us thinned, fragile, magnetic. My pulse roared in my ears. She tilted her head, just enough, an invitation or a warning, I couldn't tell. And then, her phone buzzed against the table. Loud in the quiet. She flinched, breaking the spell. I glanced down, a name flashing across the screen, unreadable from my side. She reached for it quickly, silencing it without answering. But the crack had appeared. Guilt, sharp and sudden, shadowed her expression. I wanted to ask who it was, but the question caught in my throat. She didn't offer an explanation. Instead, she exhaled, slow, steady, as if trying to gather herself. "This is madness," she whispered. "Maybe," I said. "But it's ours." Her hand rested on the table again, trembling faintly. I wanted to cover it with mine, to prove something I couldn't name. But I hesitated, fear of being too much, of pushing her away. The minutes stretched in short beats. My knee brushed hers under the table. Neither of us moved. The tension was unbearable, a string drawn too tight. She leaned in again, this time almost against her will. Our faces were inches apart, breaths mingling, her perfume sinking deeper into my skin. I thought she'd close the distance. I thought I would. But she stopped, so close I felt the warmth of her lips without touching them. Her eyes closed for a heartbeat, then opened, raw and conflicted. "I can't," she whispered. The words should have ended it. Should have been a wall. Instead, they pulled me closer, because the way she said it wasn't final. It was fragile. It was begging not to be believed. I leaned just enough for my forehead to graze hers. A small touch. Nothing that could be mistaken for an accident. She didn't move away. Her eyes closed again, lashes brushing the air between us. And in that charged stillness, caught between fear and desire, we both held our breath, bound tighter than before, even as we told ourselves we shouldn't be. The cafe had thinned out to just us and the hum of the espresso machine. Her forehead still rested against mine, both of us holding still as if moving would undo everything. I whispered, "Say you don't want this, and I'll stop." Her breath itched, feathering against my lips. "Don't tempt me with lies." The words cracked something open. My hand lifted before I could stop it, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. My fingers grazed her temple, slow, deliberate, as if memorizing the texture of her skin. She closed her eyes at the touch, only for a second, but it was enough. "You're too young," she whispered, though softer now, more like a confession than a defense. "Then why can't you look away?" Her eyes opened, burning with something she tried and failed to bury. Her hand came up as if to push me back, but instead, her fingers rested against my chest, flat, feeling the uneven rhythm of my heart. "Because you make me feel." She cut herself off, shaking her head. "Tell me." I pressed, my voice low, closer than it should have been. Her gaze flicked to my mouth, just once, before darting away. Her hand stayed against my chest, trembling faintly. "Alive," she said finally. The word barely audible, but it hit like thunder. I froze, caught between the urge to devour the moment and the terror of shattering it. Her lips parted, uncertain. Mine did the same. The space between us collapsed, not fully, but enough that the warmth of her leaned into me, shoulder against shoulder, her head tilting just enough that my breath mingled with the curve of her ear. "Do you know what this would cost me?" she asked, her voice unsteady now. "What people would say. I don't care." "You should," she repeated, but weaker than before, like even she didn't believe it anymore. I tilted closer, my cheek brushing hers, rough stubble against smooth skin. She sucked in a breath, quiet, almost a plea. My hand slid from her temple down to her jaw, my thumb tracing the edge of her cheekbone. Her hand gripped my shirt, a sudden tightening, not pulling me closer, not pushing me away, just holding on, as if bracing herself against the gravity pulling us together. "You'll ruin me," she whispered. "Then let me." The silence that followed was unbearable. My lips hovered a breath away from hers, my hand still cupping her jaw, her fingers still clenched in my shirt. Every nerve screamed to close the distance, to end the ache that had been gnawing at us since the first glance. And then, the cafe lights flickered. The barista behind the counter cleared her throat, too loudly, announcing the shop was closing soon. We broke apart by inches, but it was already too late. Her face was flushed, her breathing uneven. Mine wasn't any steadier. She gathered her things with hands that shook just enough for me to notice. I stood too quickly, nearly knocking over my chair. At the door, she paused, turning back. Her eyes caught mine raw, unguarded. "This has to stop," she said. I stepped closer, my voice low, steady. "Then kiss me goodbye." Her breath caught. Her hand tightened around the strap of her bag. And for the first time, she didn't walk away. She didn't kiss me. Not then. Instead, she opened the door, the bell chiming as if announcing our failure, and stepped out into the cooling evening. I followed, not because I meant to, but because my body moved before my head caught up. The air smelled of rain that hadn't fallen yet. The street was dim, shop lights blinking out one by one. She stopped under the awning, gripping her bag strapped so tightly her knuckles paled. "You should go home," she said without turning. "I can't." Her head dropped, shoulders tense. "Don't make this harder." I took a slow step closer. "Then why did you ask me to?" She turned then, sharp, eyes flashing with something between fury and fear. But beneath it, there was hunger too, the kind you try to starve until it devours you anyway. Her voice came out ragged. "You don't know the whole story." I froze. "Then tell me." For a long moment, she said nothing. Cars passed, the street alive but distant, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us. Finally, she exhaled, almost a shudder. "I wasn't married once," she said, her voice low. "I still am." The ground shifted under me. "What?" Her eyes searched mine, daring me to walk away, daring me to despise her. "Separated, not divorced. Papers and signed. He calls sometimes, pretends it isn't over." She shook her head, eyes flicking away. "And I let him. I don't correct him." Her phone buzzing earlier, the name on the screen. It clicked now like a cruel puzzle snapping into place. I stepped back without meaning to. My chest tightened, torn between fury and something uglier, the sting of being younger, of not knowing how deep her history reached. She caught the movement, and her lips trembled. "You see why this can happen." But my body betrayed me. Instead of leaving, I stepped forward again. Too close. Close enough that our arms brushed, fabric against fabric. "Then why tell me?" I asked, my voice rough. Her hand lifted as if to touch me, then dropped uselessly at her side. "Because you deserve the truth. Because I'm selfish. Because—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "Because you make me want to forget I'm not free." The words hollowed me and filled me at the same time. I reached up, brushing my knuckles along her arm. She shivered, not from cold, but from contact. "You think this makes me want you less?" I asked. "You should. But I don't." Her laugh cracked, bitter short. "God, you're too young to understand consequences." I leaned closer, my mouth near her ear, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "Maybe. But I understand wanting you." Her breath stuttered, warm against my cheek. She turned, and for a second I thought she'd kiss me at last. Instead, she pressed her forehead against my chest, both hands fisting into my shirt. I felt her shaking, felt the battle she was losing against herself. "Do you know what this would cost me?" she whispered. "Yes." And still. The silence thickened, pulsing with every heartbeat. People walked by, but none of them mattered. It was her trembling hands, her closeness, the weight of her secret pressed between us. Finally, she pushed away just enough to look up at me. Her eyes glistened, not quite tears, but raw enough. "If we do this," she said slowly, "there's no undoing it." I cupped her face then, thumb brushing her cheekbone. She leaned into it, the smallest betrayal of restraint. "Then let's stop pretending we don't already want to." Her lips parted, breath shaky. She didn't answer, but her silence was enough, a silence that pulled us past the point of return. The night pressed in around us, the street quiet now, only the low hum of passing cars fading into distance. She was still in my arms, her forehead beneath my chin, her fingers knotted in my shirt like she didn't trust her legs to keep her standing. When she finally looked up, Her face was so close I could taste the warmth of her breath. Her lips parted as if she meant to speak, but no words came. I whispered, "Tell me to leave." Her eyes searched mine, desperate, torn. Her hands loosened but didn't let go. "I can't." The sound of it broke something inside me. I lowered my head until my cheek brushed hers, stubble against smooth skin. She shivered, not from cold, from us. "You want this," I said. "I shouldn't." "That's not an answer." Her laugh was breathless, cracked in the middle. "God, you don't make this easy." "I don't want easy," I whispered into her hair. The silence that followed was unbearable. My hands hovered, not daring to pull her closer, not daring to let go. She swayed the smallest bit toward me, not enough to be certain, but enough that my restraint splintered. I cupped her face, palms warm against her skin. Her eyes fluttered shut. She leaned into my touch like she'd been starved for it. "This will ruin me," she whispered. "Or save you." Her breath caught, sharp, trembling, as though I'd cracked a lock she'd kept bolted for years. I tilted closer, closer still, until my lips grazed hers, not quite a kiss, but no way to call it anything else. For one suspended heartbeat, she didn't move. Then she pushed into me, sudden, fierce, her mouth meeting mine as if she'd decided and couldn't take it back. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was messy, desperate, raw, years of restraint burning through a single touch. My hands slid to the back of her neck, holding her as if she might vanish. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling, anchoring herself. And then, just as suddenly, she broke away, breath ragged, face flushed. "This is insane," she whispered, almost laughing, almost crying. "Maybe," I said, forehead still resting against hers. "But it's real." She stared at me, eyes glassy, lips swollen from what we hadn't meant to do. And in that look, I saw her answer even before she gave it. Her hands smoothed down my chest, trembling but steady enough to stay. "If I go home now, I'll never come back." "Then don't." The words hung there. Heavy. Final. Her silence stretched, but it wasn't resistance anymore. It was surrender. And when she leaned in again, slower this time, pressing her lips to mine with the softness of someone who'd finally chosen, I knew. This wasn't about age. Or rules. Or what anyone else would think. This was two people caught in the wrong place, the wrong time, who'd decided to stop running from it. We pulled apart again, just enough to breathe, and she smiled, small and broken and whole all at once. "Now you know," she whispered. "I was never afraid of you. I was afraid of myself." I kissed her forehead, letting the truth of it settle. "Then we're afraid together." And in that moment, messy and trembling and impossibly clear, we understood each other. Fully. Finally. The street was nearly empty by the time we started walking, side by side, without speaking. Our hands brushed once, then again, until finally mine caught hers. I half expected her to pull away, but she didn't. Her fingers curled around mine slowly, as if testing how it felt to hold me in public. It was quiet. Too quiet for two people who had just broken through every wall they swore they'd keep standing. But the silence wasn't empty anymore, it was full. Full of everything we'd already said without words. At the corner, she stopped. Her shoulders stiffened as she stared at the crosswalk light, red against the night. "This can't be simple," she said softly. "I know. And it won't last forever." "I know that too." Her eyes lifted to mine then, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. "But for now?" I squeezed her hand. "For now, it's just us." The red light blinked green, but neither of us moved. Instead, I stepped closer, brushing her hair back behind her ear. My fingers lingered against her cheek, and she leaned into the touch without hesitation this time. "I spent years convincing myself I was done with this," she murmured. "With wanting. With feeling." Her voice caught on the last word. "And now?" I asked. Her lips curved, tired but warm. "Now I feel ridiculous." I smiled back. "Then I'll be ridiculous with you." Her laugh slipped out, low and genuine, surprising both of us. She shook her head, but she didn't let go of my hand. We crossed together, not rushing. The city kept moving around us, but it felt slower, softer. Like we'd carved out our own small corner of time. When we reached her car, she leaned against the door, facing me. The streetlight painted her in gold, lines of age and strength softened into something almost luminous. "I don't know what happens next," she admitted. "I don't have rules for this." "Neither do I," I said. "We'll figure it out." Her eyes studied me, as if waiting for doubt, waiting for me to back down. But I didn't. I stepped closer until my body shadowed hers, until the night air between us was just breath. She exhaled slowly, and then her forehead touched mine. No hesitation, no trembling. Just the quiet certainty of two people finally giving in. Her hands slid up, resting against my chest. Mine found her waist, grounding her against me. We didn't rush. We didn't need to. The moment itself was enough. I kissed her forehead, lingering there. She closed her eyes, lips parting in a sigh that carried years of holding back. And then she whispered the only words that mattered. "Don't let go." "I won't," I said. And I meant it. We stayed like that for a long time, pressed close, her head resting against me, my arms wrapped around her like she belonged there. The world kept moving, but we didn't. Not yet. Because for the first time, either of us was running. Not from the years between us. Not from the risks, the doubts, the whispers that might follow. Just us. Together. Finally.